Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a video review, and it's going to be a bit of a double view because I'm going to give my take on Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII that I'm playing on the Nintendo Switch. Game is also on the PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and PC via Steam. And I also want to give my thoughts on Marvel Studios' Echoes, the show that I just finished watching on Disney Plus. And for parents out there, for Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, that game is rated T for teens, ages 13 and up by the ESRB rating system, while Marvel Studios' Echo is rated TVMA here in the USA and everything like that. Final Fantasy VII, basically, ever since the game originally came out back in 1997, really became a very popular Final Fantasy game for a lot of folks out there, though. And what's so good that eventually we started to see basically, somewhat of a sequel or even different takes on it, ranging from like a movie or animated movie to there is a service, if I'm saying the name correctly, for Final Fantasy VII to, basically has been very popular. But there was also a game that was released back in 2002 for the PSP, basically called Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. This basically acted more like a prequel to the events of the Final Fantasy VII game in particular. And with, the whole Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth recently just came out, I thought I would basically give my take with this game, and after spending some time with it, I will say it is definitely a fun game, even on the Nintendo Switch and everything like that. It is. It is enjoyable, especially if you have time to play it and want to learn a bit more of the backstories, although some of the stuff in the backstories might be a little bit dated since the story for the Final Fantasy VII Remake has changed a little bit, but it still is a good game nevertheless. So why don't we break it down into the pros and the cons, and we'll start off first with the pros. The first one has to do with the combat, and I definitely enjoyed the combat in this game. The combat kind of feels very similar to what we see with basically Square Enix's Kingdom Hearts series and all. You basically have your attack, and you can assign special moves to like the buttons and everything like that. Whether it's fire or lightning, ice, cure, different materials to arm Zack with. Though some of the materials may not be don't do anything, but might say reveal weakness the enemy might have and everything like that. Others may be like a special move and all. And if you use these materials a lot, you can sort of level them up, though. Using them is a little bit different than how it is in the Final Fantasy VII Remake, where in this case the screen you have to wait for like a AP or action point to fill up to use it. You don't have that here. You do have to just keep an eye on your action point or your MP meter because every time you use them it will drain and so forth. But either way, the combat is sort of fun, and the way the game is structured is basically you could do it is basically main missions and some of the smaller missions. Some of the smaller missions, depending on the levels, basically completing these will basically earn you maybe a different equipment or anything like that. You can also find items in that level and all, while the main mission basically contains the story and everything like that. Interestingly enough, the main missions can be accessed through any of the save points, to basically even the item shopping can be accessed through any of the save points as well. So from the combat standpoint, it is definitely fun and enjoyable. The next thing I do want to point out is basically the game on the Switch, though. Now, the game was ported over to multiple systems, and there was some concern of whether or not how well this game will run on the Switch. And based on my time with it, it does run pretty fine and everything like that. Obviously, it's not going to look as good as, say, as what the PS4 or the PS5 or Xbox One or Xbox Series X and S or PC is going to look, though, but it still gets the job done, and it looks very fine on the Nintendo Switch. On top of that, it runs at basically at 30 frames per second, and while it's not the 60 frames per second I know some would prefer, having it run at 30 frames per second isn't bad or anything. To me, I felt like it ran smooth at basically 30 frames per second. Don't get me wrong, I would have preferred running at 60 frames per second, but at 30 frames per per second. The game, I thought, ran well on the Switch. And finally, in terms of the visuals of the game, what really kind of surprised me a little bit, at least for the visuals on the Switch, is that it almost looks close, I'm not saying 100%, but looks close to what the Final Fantasy VII Remake looks like. And that certainly isn't a bad thing at all. I mean, I'm really kind of surprised they managed to put this into the Switch. It does make you kind of wonder to a certain extent how Final Fantasy VII Remake or even Rebirth would have been like if they had found a way to make it run on the Nintendo Switch and all. So I definitely like the visuals and how it looks close to the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2, which is the cons. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my video review of the Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion for the Nintendo Switch. So now that I gave you the pros, why don't we get started with the cons? And there are really only 2 big cons I could think of, at least with my time with Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. The first one does have to do with, the frame rate. Now, as I mentioned, though, the game runs at 30 frames per second. And for the majority of the time, I wasn't as bothered by this as some might have been or anything like that. Having said that, though, I do kind of agree that it would have been nice if they did have sort of a graphical option for the Switch version, if it was possible, though, so it could run at 60 frames per second on the Switch, even if it means lowering the resolution, assuming this was possible or anything like that. But either case, it would have been nice if they had that kind of feature. That would have been really neat to have in terms of for the Switch version of Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion and all. And last but not least, I do have to talk about is the character Zack, who's the main character in Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. While I don't have really a huge issue with him, I will say some of his lines or something that he says in the game can be somewhat a little bit cheesy at times, though. Does it ruin the game or anything like that? No, I wouldn't go out of my way and say that his lines, ruin the game or anything, but sometimes they just come off as being just cheesy and just downright dumb to a certain extent. So it's like every now and then with his lines and all. Overall, I would say Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion is a good game for the Nintendo Switch or whichever version you decide to pick up, though, and it's a nice prequel for those who want to see what happened before the events of Final Fantasy VII. Even though the remake kind of changes some of the story a little bit. At its best, though, the combat is enjoyable along with the gameplay, so it is definitely a fun game. Like I said, it runs well on the Nintendo Switch, even at 30 frames per second, and the visuals on the Switch version at least makes it feel like it's almost close to the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it does make you kind of wonder to a certain extent how the Switch version of how Final Fantasy VII Remake would have ran on the Nintendo Switch to a certain extent. But at the same time, at its worst, I would have liked to have seen basically a graphical option for the Switch version if that was possible, so we could get the game running at 60 frames per second on the Switch. And of course, as I mentioned, Zack's lines can be cheesy at times, to be exact. But in either case, though, I think it is a good game for those who are looking to see what who the character Zack was in the Final Fantasy VII universe, though. It is definitely something I'm playing right now, along with trying to finish off the Final Fantasy VII Remake and hopefully going into Rebirth and so forth. But I think for Final Fantasy VII fans, or those who may have missed out on when the game originally came out, I think the early 2000s for the PSP, though, it is worth taking a look nevertheless. As far as which version to pick up, that ultimately comes down to what your main system choice is. If you like the idea of the portability factor, I don't have a problem with the game running at 30 frames per second, then there's nothing wrong with picking up the Switch version. But if you're looking for, having the game running at 60 frames per second or anything like that, and you really don't think portability is a big deal, then consider maybe taking a look at the Xbox Series X and S or the PS5 or the PC version in general, if you'd rather go that route or not. But in either case, though, for those who are like the idea of a prequel to the Final Fantasy VII universe, then I would consider giving Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion a try and everything. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to the second part of this video, or part 3, and this will be my thoughts and review on Disney, Marvel Studios / Disney Plus's Echo series. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our third and final part of my video review, and for this one I'm going to be talking about my review / thought on Marvel Studios, Disney Plus, and also appears on Hulu's Echo. And as I mentioned it before, for parents out there, it's worth pointing out that Echo is rated TVMA here in the USA and all. In terms of TV shows on Disney Plus from Marvel and everything, I would say have done pretty well and all. And there have been some ones that I enjoyed, like WandaVision. I enjoyed Moon Knight. I enjoyed and all. Werewolf by Night, which I think was like a Marvel Studio movie on Disney Plus. But at the same time, there have been some that have either been mixed bags or haven't really gotten the attention they would. Like Miss Marvel, I thought, again, good, but obviously the tone is a little different, especially if you came from watching Moon Knight. She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, got sort of a mixed response for some folks out there, though. And, I mean, so there have been some shows. Oh, and Secret Invasion, which I wanted to like, but I just felt it just wasn't there. And basically, last year, along with other Marvel movies, has been sort of a rough spot for them outside of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and everything like that. So when the first trailer dropped for Disney Echo, I was very interested to see how this was going to be, especially seeing Kingpin make an appearance, and I thought this may actually look good and everything like that, especially what they showed and everything. And after watching all 5 episodes of Echo, I would say that this is definitely one of Marvel Studios' better Disney Plus shows that they have put out. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying it's going to overtake Moon Knight or WandaVision in any way, but I definitely felt like this one was more of an improvement over, say, Secret Invasion was on Disney Plus. So I'm going to break it down into what I like and what I didn't like. Not 100% sure about, though. In terms of what I like, I'm glad that they brought Vincent D'Onofrio, if I'm saying his name correctly, returning as Wilson Fisk / Kingpin. I thought he did a really good job portraying that character, especially when Daredevil was on Netflix and everything like that. And since they're going to continue that with Daredevil Born Again, I definitely glad they brought his character back. I think he did a really good job playing Kingpin. And I definitely like he did a good job playing Kingpin, especially in Echo and everything like that. So glad that he's returning to play that character, Wilson Fisk, Kingpin and all. I also definitely like the fact that the show does have a darker tone and everything like that. And I'm glad that they made the show TVMA. I think it shows that some of these Marvel characters can be, a bit darker here and there. And I'm glad Disney Plus has decided to add that in as well. Yes, there is a parental setup you could put up for Disney Plus if you don't want to see that, but I'm glad that they aim for that, and I would like to see more of Marvel use some of their characters, not all, but some of them go in, like the TVMA or R-rated, like we're going to be seeing with the upcoming release of Deadpool and Wolverine, which I believe will be R-rated, and also definitely like the darker tone and the gritty, down-to-earth portrayment they had in basically Echo, though. And last but not least, I like how Maya, the main character, is sort of portrayed in this show and everything like that. I mean, I thought she was definitely an interesting character, but what made it I thought was kind of interesting was the fact that she was, mute and or deaf and can only speak through sign language and everything like that. So it was very interesting to have that kind of character in the show and all. And I thought, I thought that was a good job how the character was portrayed and everything like that. So I definitely liked how she was portrayed, especially when she's sort of a descendant of, part of the tribe in Oklahoma, and a Native American tribe, and you see some of their history and descent through some of the flashbacks. So really neat how they portrayed her and all. As far as what I didn't like, mixed or not 100% sure, while it was nice to see the Vincent D'Onofrio basically portray Wilson Fisk and Kingpin, I was a little bit disappointed that Charlie Cox, Matt Murdock, and Daredevil only made sort of a brief appearance, I think one episode to be exact, and that was a little bit unfortunate. I would have liked to see him make maybe a couple appearances here and there in any of the other episodes for Echo and all. So it was a little bit disappointed that his character didn't get it, only made a brief appearance and all. The other disappointment is that this one, I mean, I enjoyed the story and all, but I do think some of the plot, you probably need to watch Hawkeye to get some of the understanding of some of the plots and everything like that, especially if you missed out on some areas. Although it was nice to see Hawkeye Rowan character make an appearance in the first episode of Echo, but it does feel like you probably had to watch Hawkeye to get understanding some of the story here. And last but not least, I'm kind of a little mixed on the ending to Echo, or at least the season 1 ending to be exact. Basically, she's finally confronted by Kingpin and his henchmen, and Kingpin has her grandmother and I believe her sister and all basically being held hostage. It's basically both of these two confronting each other and all. And while it was sort of interesting to see her, fight and everything, I just felt it was sort of mixed to see her grandmother basically show that she has powers and takes on some of Kingpin's henchmen and everything like that. So I was a little bit mixed with the ending. Not bad, not awful, but nothing really memorable or anything like that. Overall, I would say Echo I thought was basically an improvement over some of the other, I would say an improvement over Secret Invasion to a certain extent, and I think that it's definitely a good thing. At its best though, some of the cast returns like Vincent D'Onofrio, who does a good job playing Wilson Fisk and Kingpin. I apologize for not getting his name correctly. I thought he did a really good job portraying that character. I like the gritty and dark tone that they added into this, so I would like to see them explore more of the street level Marvel characters going forward and all. And I definitely like how Maya was sort of portrayed in Echo. But at the same time, I am a little disappointed that Charlie Cox, Matt Murdock only had a brief appearance in basically Echo and all. Some of the plot, I feel like you did have to watch Hawkeye if you missed out on it. I probably have to catch up on that one. And I was a little bit mixed on the ending in general. But in either case, I did come away pleased with this show and all. And definitely is worth one watching, especially if you have, Disney Plus, or if you have Hulu, since it's also on Hulu as well. Is it as good as, say, WandaVision or Moon Knight was? I would say not necessarily. I won't say it's as good as those shows are, or was, Werewolf by Night. But do I think is an improvement over Secret Invasion? To an extent, yes. I do think that this definitely is an improvement, and I wouldn't mind seeing Echo make an appearance in basically future Marvel shows or anything like that. So it'll be very interesting to see how they handle these street level superheroes, aka the Defenders and others, to be exact though. But in either case, I definitely think Echo was fun to watch, and if you have Hulu or Disney, give it a try though. See how you feel about those shows though. Okay, this concludes my video review of Final Fantasy VII Reunion for the Nintendo Switch, and my review/thought on Hulu and Disney Plus Echo. And again, These are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, though? Have you played the game originally on the PSP? Do you like this remake or remaster version that they did in any way? Do you think the Switch version is okay? Or do you think you'd rather get it on, like the Xbox Series X and S or PC or PS5 in general? And what are your thoughts about Marvel Studios and Disney Plus's Echo, though? Do you think this is a step in the right direction in some of their shows for Disney Plus and all? Do you like this gritty, darker tone to it? Would you like to see, do you think Marvel Studio and Disney should do more of those kind of shows on Disney Plus or Echo, to be exact? Does this make you looking forward to Daredevil Born Again in any way? Do you agree with what I say in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal Me or Patreon or Steam Labs. Links will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!